Hi, I'm Alicia. Thank you for joining us today. And before you take this journey with us, I just want to say this is a podcast, okay? This is not a therapy session. Yes, we talk about real and sometimes heavy stuff, so consider this your trigger warning. And I'm a licensed therapist, but nothing here is medical advice or a substitute for professional mental health care. Because remember, we're just like talking to comedians. Anyway, welcome to Xanyland.
He's blacked out. We haven't even started.
Have we started?
Browned out. That's a great name for your podcast, guys.
Should we change it to browned out?
I don't think we can do that.
No, but
Okay.
We could be white out.
What is happening today?
Welcome to the Xanyland podcast. I'm your host, Alicia, a licensed therapist. And we're hanging out with comedians because who else is going to be honest about being crazy?
I'm a therapist. Did you know that?
It shocks
I don't even
me
know where to
every
start
day.
today. It should shock you. Okay,
do that.
what is your day like, Jessica Michelle?
I wake up, I scream at the universe for cursing me with another day.
Do you know stuff about mental health? So basically the vibe is...
No.
The vibe is that you're a comedian and I'm a therapist, but I would like for you to tell me about mental health for our listeners,
Okay.
right? That kind of vibe where like you're the expert
Okay.
and I'm just here sort of trying to learn from the community.
Oh, you're like, what do regular people... By the way, everyone watching, the most insane group of people on earth are comedians.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I figured that who else is going to be willing to talk about being crazy?
But, yeah, then comedians.
Then
so
comedians,
It's like they
so-
do it for a living.
Do you work on your mental health? Like, do you care about mental health? Like, what's your...
I work on my mental health a lot. I'm actually very fascinated by the world of psychology and psychiatry. I have a lot of trauma, and I don't think for years I knew it was trauma, but then, you know, you start reading, you start learning as you get older.
how did
and
you
you're
start
like,
to realize it was trauma?
I don't even know. I think somewhere in my late 20s, I was just falling apart.
Did you know that we didn't even know trauma existed until somewhere between the 1980s and the 1990s? Like, we didn't even have a word for it.
That's so insane.
So if you feel behind on realizing you had trauma, that probably shows your age.
I mean, thank goodness. Well, and also, like, I grew up in a household where a lot of bad things happened, but also if you felt sad, you were a pussy. Like, how dare you? Suck it. I'm from a suck it up family.
Yeah, where are you from?
Oh, I was born in Germany.
She says you.
But we moved to southern Mississippi when I was 3.
Yep.
Yeah, it's military. And then my parents split up, and my mom drove us from Mississippi to Alaska when I was in 6th grade. So, Alaska,
I did know that it was
which is
Alaska.
dark.
Yeah, it's
and
dark.
Cold.
How long is it dark for there?
Like 9 months out of the year, it gets pretty. It doesn't go. I didn't live somewhere where it goes like total blackness, but we would get down in the thick of winter. We'd get to like I think 3 or 4 hours of daylight. It's insane. That's actually why I chose New York. I mean LA over New York because I was like, I can't go back to cold weather as my like living situation.
Yeah, like you're holding onto the sun for dear life.
Yeah, so I worship the sun, and yeah, I don't know. I think I just broke down. I think I was one of those people who was walking it off. You know, just like, I'm fine. These other people, they can't deal with their things, but I got it. And then I very quickly, at some point, in like 26 or 27 years old, I didn't have it. I was just unraveling.
You were.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know when I started actively working on it versus just even being aware of it. But somewhere in my late 20s, I was like suicidally, I don't even want to say depressed. At the time I was working at a nonprofit, so I had a therapist who was sliding scale student, a Russian woman. And I remember going to her and being like, yeah, I'm just like depressed and trying to not be. And she had me tell her about my life and like what was going on. And she's like, let's talk about your childhood. And by the second session, maybe second or third, she was like, you're not depressed. You've had a terrible life. oh, good, thank God. But like now I go like, oh yeah, you know, you don't hear that a lot. And it was interesting to me
Wow.
now because other people will really try to diagnose you really quick. And having someone go, actually, you shouldn't feel good because those things are sad.
Yeah.
Because we have this culture where
do.
like any negative feeling is like, you should be ashamed of that. You shouldn't feel that way.
Yeah.
And that has always fucked me up. That we're like, oh, you shouldn't be sad. You shouldn't be angry. And then I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The most psychotic thing would be someone who's always happy. Who's just walking around like, life's never been better. That's the guy whose wife is chopped up in a freezer. Like that's.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Buddha said life is suffering. Like, people
Yes.
get it. It's real.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yes. And I think I got real into, I did a 10-day silent meditation of a Vipassana retreat in like 2017. It was difficult. I
Yeah.
survived. I made
Okay.
it. But it really like helped me understand my emotions a lot more because it is. And I think there's a lot to be said about, like, life is suffering, but also learning to not react to your emotions is such a big thing. I think what my big struggle was when I started to realize I had an issue was like attaching myself to whatever emotion I was feeling.
Yeah.
It was like I couldn't see past like I'm so sad, I'm so upset. It was like this is who I am forever. Like I would forget that it's like, yeah, no, in probably much less time than you think, you're going to feel fine. Get a good, like for me, so often if I just go, okay, I feel sad right now and really lean in.
Yeah.
And some people think this is insane, but I'm like an evangelist for like, just get a good sob in. And then I'm like, wait, oh, okay.
There are people that don't agree with you on that.
I think for some people, the idea of leaning into it is like, what? I can't do that. They think it, because I get it. The idea is like, you think, oh, it'll consume me or something. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
Nothing.
As an education point, I would agree. I would say that getting a good sob in is really important. And a lot of it is charge. And so that's a nice release of that charge.
Yes.
And it's a healthy release of that charge, as opposed to stuffing it, where then you just become basically a kettle.
Yeah.
With your top that's going to like blow.
Yeah, and everyone, there's this idea, I don't want to say everyone, there's this idea, and I don't know if it's American culture or what, but like, that it makes you stronger to like, suck it up.
Just
keep
makes
it
you a
in.
murderer.
Yeah, it just makes, you're gonna crack.
Yeah.
And like, it's gonna come out somewhere.
Did you get this tattoo in that 10-day retreat?
No, actually I had that before.
Oh, wow.
Slow down.
Slow down.
And it literally, it seems like it's classic white woman, like a message for my soul, but it actually is literally because this is my microphone hand and I talk too fast and it inhibits my comedy.
Oh my God. Do you really look down and go like,
Rarely.
oh yeah.
It has, what an investment for something that barely helps.
So it is just
But
a
isn't
white
that
woman message
life?
to
Yeah.
yourself.
It's the amount of things I've gotten, like, this is going to change me. And it's like, for a second it did, and then it stopped. But at least it's permanent.
I actually like to acknowledge tattoos on my clients sometimes that say things like that and be like, oh, remember the message on your arm?
Yeah,
And they're
don't
like,
forget.
oh yeah. I like to reference those because they meant that at one point.
Yeah.
And most of us aren't looking at them or taking them in.
No. Yeah, no, it's
I
just
like yours though.
I look at it and I go, you fool.
Okay, so I just totally derailed you. How do you feel about that?
It's fine. I took my 5 milligrams of Adderall.
Is that what you are on now, Adderall?
Well, it's hard to come by. Well, it's not. The pharmacy I go to kept not having it in stock. And then at some point I went back to Vyvanse, which I hated, but it's all they had. And I was like, I need something.
Why is Vyvanse what you hated?
When I first got prescribed to it, it was because I wanted to get off of Adderall, because Adderall made me a little robotic and I lacked emotion. And boy, be careful what you wish for. Because Vyvanse really heightened every emotion I ever had. For a little bit, it was good.
Yeah.
It was like I was getting things done. I felt good. And then I just I had been on it for a little while, went through a breakup, so I'm sure that factored into why it wasn't working as well. But then when they bumped me up a little, like, oh, we'll raise the milligrams, I went crazy.
Can I tell you that my husband tried Vyvanse recently?
How'd that go?
I did.
I almost
here the
left
whole
him. I sat on the side of a sidewalk one day. We went on a walk and I like crumbled to the ground and I was like, I think I might have to leave you if you don't leave Vyvanse.
You have to leave. You have to give up
It's
the
either
Vyvanse.
Vyvanse or me. Yeah.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was literally one of the worst things I've ever experienced because I think there was that honeymoon period he had with the Vyvanse when he was coming home happy.
Yeah, it
And-
like sneaks up on you.
He was getting everything done, and I was like, we're gonna be rich so fucking soon. This Vyvanse is going to make us rich.
That's what's crazy is like the
Yes.
amount I can get done. I get it. Where I'm like, oh, this is how psychopaths feel. Like I go, this is all the CEOs, the Tony Robbins.
Yes.
I'm like, this is. But then I also have the thought of, is this just how regular people without ADHD feel? This is crazy.
It's not. I promise you it's not. Listen, it was like my husband became that CEO that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And he was just a workhorse at that point. And it was so exhilarating to wake up in the morning and be like, everything's cleaned, everything's
I've
paid.
seized the
I
day.
took on a couple new clients. I've called your mother. I didn't have to do anything for a couple weeks and it was beautiful.
But then the juice wasn't worth the squeeze.
He had so much energy then he needed to be constantly stimulated. So he was on his phone and then doing a thing and then on his phone and then walking the dog and then on his phone. And then,
yeah. I do feel like I don't think it necessarily makes I don't know how to phrase this. I don't think it makes my ADHD less. I think it makes me better able to handle my ADHD.
Yeah.
When I am on the right med, I'm like, oh, I can handle the thoughts coming in. Whereas
Yeah.
without it, it's just
Yeah.
oh, I'm overwhelmed. I need to lay down.
Because they say that it gives you a brake pedal.
Yeah,
But that's interesting because you get a brake pedal, but you also get.
it's like I can organize the thoughts. It's like I can compartmentalize them. It's like having drawers of ideas versus a pile, like a laundry pile of them, where you're like, well, what was I working on over here? It's like I can just, I don't know how to describe it other than trying to visually describe it. But
No, I love that
I
actually.
was told you're able to modulate your focus.
You can
can
control the
where you
hyperfocus.
Modulate your focus.
yeah. Whereas with ADHD, it's like I'll focus on something, but it's not
Yeah.
the thing.
That you want to focus.
Yeah, that I'm like, oh, why am I reading about Greece when I should be writing a pilot? And I'm like, you're never gonna believe what's going on over there. And you're like,
But isn't that the opposite? Isn't ADHD supposed to be that you can go, okay, I'm not going to read about Greece. I'm just going to write my pilot. No, I mean, if you take the right med.
yeah. I think, no, that's what I think it does, is that you it helps you direct the focus.
Direct the focus. Okay. So it has all these good sides where your husband's a sexy CEO and you can make all the money and you can and you can modulate your focus, but there is a dark side to
yeah.
Vyvanse at least.
Yeah, and I've read that some people have no issues with it. My friend Maddie.
Oh yeah. Also, you're all bio individuals, so even though we've all had this experience, maybe you're gonna respond
that's
to
what
it correctly.
crazy.
Yeah.
And I know I've talked to you about this, but it's
Yeah.
so much of psychiatry is darts in the dark. They're just try this.
Yeah.
And see if that works. And it's like, by the way, it might not work and it might go. Rarely, and a therapist has never gone, and just so you know, it'll be on the label, but no one's ever gone, it could get so bad. They've never said that to me.
No, they've never.
They just go, see how you
ever
feel.
said that.
And
They've
it's-
never said hey, your family might fall apart as you try this
Yeah,
for
by
the
the
next
way,
month and
the
a half.
suicide might get worse.
The suicide might. Yeah.
This could help you feel better, or give you just enough energy to actually do it. So
We have a
just-
question from the
the audience? From the-
outside. Yeah, it's a live audience, by the way.
What's
What?
the time frame on a med like that to decide whether it's for you or not?
I don't know as a therapist. I
'Cause you're
actually.
not a psychiatrist.
I'm not a psychiatrist, although I have been around a lot of psychiatrists in my day, and around a lot of medications in my day. And actually in Massachusetts, I was even licensed to hand out medication, which is insane.
handout medication.
Handouts in the,
Let's get to Massachusetts.
the
We're gonna be
gr-
rich.
in the group homes. Yeah, it's so messed up.
The group homes.
In the group homes. Anyway, so, but I do know because my husband has OCD, and my husband essentially for the past 2 years has been, I believe, treated like a lab rat. I think we've been really trying to achieve.
guinea pigged.
He's been guinea pigged.
Ooh, OCD and ADHD. My heart is going out to you.
And you know what?
You're battling with yourself.
They thought it was OCD and bipolar disorder. So this poor man had tried all these medications, and we've gone through the gamut. I mean, we got married 2 years ago too, so it's literally our life as married couple has been ups and downs on medications.
Trials.
And so I'll say it's probably about 2 months.
2 months. And then there's got to be an overlap, right?
Takes a little
If
while
you
for it to start to
switch.
work. Oh, then you have to
do you have to
titrate.
detox?
You have to titrate it down and basically kind of
What's
detox off it.
titrate? You
Titrate,
like-
reduce
Oh,
at a
yeah.
certain rate. Because,
Don't go cold.
ooh, you can't go cold off
Yeah,
of
I did
one of these
that.
You did? What happened?
Yeah. Well, I think that's when I was suicidal as a 27-year-old.
that
It's
would make
just
sense.
Like,
What med was it?
well, they tried to treat my ADHD because people try to get, meds and they're not, whatever. They tried to treat my ADHD with Prozac.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's not working and I'm sweating. I'm not going to take it anymore.
Sweating.
I was just sweaty and I was like, I'm not getting anything done. I'm just sweaty.
Were you
and-
just sweaty?
Just sweaty. Made me sweaty. And I was in, to be fair, a very terrible studio apartment with no air conditioning. So, was it the meds? Was it a Los Angeles apartment? But I was like, I was obviously unwell. And I was like, this isn't
How long did you even take it for?
not long enough.
You have to take it for at least 2 weeks for it to even show up.
Okay, I might have been two or 3
Okay.
weeks in. And I just was like, this isn't it.
This
I went
isn't
to
it.
the doctor because I didn't go to treat my depression. I went because I couldn't get enough done at work. And I was
Yeah.
like, I'm going to lose my fucking job.
Yeah.
I loved my job. I enjoyed it, but I just couldn't. And then she's like, let's try this. And that's much of psychiatry is let's try this.
That's exactly right. And I want to point out right now, and I think you're the same way, I am not, well, obviously you take medication as well. I'm not against medication or psychopharmaceuticals. And I think that's why this is an important conversation, because this could be a super redneck conversation where we're going like, don't take meds.
Don't take meds.
St. John's wort. You know what I mean?
I will say I'm like, I trust that the people who are doing the research for pharmaceuticals, I mean, some of them are just like cashing on money, but I think that intention comes from a good place. And there is, of course, like medications you need, they can improve your life, your mental health, your well-being. I do think in Western medicine, so many doctors skip over and I'm not going to be like, go snort turmeric, but like there's psychiatrists who won't even go like, do you exercise at all?
Yeah.
Like, I have a new set out on Eliza's Locals. It's a stand-up like series on Hulu where I talk about being depressed, but like, and I make fun of the people who are like, you just got to get outside. And I'm like, oh yeah, fuck you. You wouldn't say that to your friend with cancer. And I do, part of me feels that way, but part of me is like, when I get out into nature and go for a walk, it actually does help a little.
It does. What you and I think, are going to try to address, and I think this is so important, is that, yes, though, I do use chamomile tincture for my anxiety. So we're not against pharmaceuticals, but then again, they haven't been revised since like the 70s. And then again, psychiatrists are not actually doing many things that they could be doing to help us reduce the symptoms.
Yeah.
But
Or
then
prepping
also,
us.
don't just say, get a light box for your depression, like my mother said to me one time.
God.
When I was
from Alaska, that is triggering. Stare into the light.
she was like,
This won't bring my dad back.
I was in like a horrible relationship and I was super depressed, and at that point, like drinking too much wine with Xanax. And she said,
Well,
and she said,
We all cope.
this was in a past life. And at least it was long enough ago. I was like,
it is crazy how you're like, how was that me?
how was that
When time
me?
passes, you're like, I can't imagine doing that now.
I was that white woman, but I was living in Massachusetts, and to be fair, it's not as dark as your world, but it was really
What are
fucking
you gonna
dark.
do?
And she just was like, get a light box. Now,
Go to church.
I'm not saying don't get a light box. Get a light box. Like, I almost got one this year during our rain season.
Yeah, but it's like,
But that's just, some of us needs medication. And I think
Yeah.
I've seen the right medication when diagnosed correctly, really improve someone's quality of life.
yeah, it can like make a huge difference. And I think the struggle is, in psychiatry specifically, finding the right medicine.
That's right.
Because it's like, you go to a doctor because your throat hurts, or like you're having stomach pains. They're doing cultures, they do x-rays, they're like taking blood. And psychiatrists are just like, Have we tried Wellbutrin? Like,
I know.
you're just like, we're all guinea pigs.
They are all guinea pigs. I think that's why people are scared of medication, sadly.
Yeah.
Because
They see the negative.
and there's a lot.
Oh yeah, my mom would regularly, and I think she hasn't done it in a long time. My mom loved, which now that I'm saying this, I'm like, I should have known better with the Prozac. My mom loved to go cold turkey on an SSRI. Just fucking like, I feel good. I don't need it anymore. And then it would be like, you got to skip hockey practice. Mom's on the ledge again. You know, like just running defense on my mom chugging NyQuil and being like, I was going to run the car in the garage, but I lost my keys. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, we're all having fun here. Like, but that's what happens. And like,
That's what happens.
and that is a struggle too, because I think so many of us, we want to be the ideal version of ourselves too. So then sometimes I think it happens with physical health too. You'll start taking a med, you get better, and you go, well, I'm better now.
Honey, I'm so glad that you brought that up. And all like joking aside, first of all, that's so fucking sad.
Well,
Let's for 1 second go like, fuck you. God, so bad. But also,
it was an adventure.
it's, yeah, it made you so amazing and creative
But
and
yeah,
special
well, my
today.
mom loves to bring that
can
up and take
blame
credit.
your mom.
If I was better, you wouldn't be so funny.
Oh,
And I'm
yeah.
like, okay, well,
She's right.
she's right. Thanks, Mom.
So I just want to say though, this is such an important point because that is what a lot of people do, and it's so sad when it happens to me in therapy. When I have a client, we got them the right med.
And they're doing great.
Holy shit! And they're finally doing well, and they have a job and a partner, and not that that's like what you have to
No,
do.
but it's like they're meeting goals, they're feeling good
they're
about
meeting
themselves.
goals, and
they're
then
functioning.
they go, you know what? I'm doing really, really well, and I'm gonna stop the medication, and I don't need to see you anymore. And it's like the most heartbreaking thing, and you're like, wait, please, no, I don't just want your money. I just don't
You're
want
like,
you
I'm
to
worried about you.
fall. And then, of course, you get a phone call later from like a parent or a partner that's just like, they're in treatment, and their life
Help.
fell apart, and it's
Yeah.
so devastating. So if you finally do find the medication that is working for you, and it's like 1 or 2 medications that are working for you, don't stop.
Yeah. It's not an antibiotic. It's like a daily
no.
vitamin. You know what I mean? I don't even think it's intentional. We just go like,
I'm better.
okay, well, it fixed it.
Yeah.
And then
That's not how they work, unfortunately. It's more like diabetes where you're going to take it
you have to take it forever.
And schizophrenics, if they stop their meds, their baseline, which is like, let's say here,
Yeah.
it'll get worse. And then it'll stay there.
And sadly, not just schizophrenia. The writer that you've been reading lately, Consider the Lobster, is that his book? David Foster Wallace.
This is water. Boy, someone sent that to me when I was depressed, and then I looked up what happened to him, and I was like, maybe not the thing to send to people.
Do you know what happened to him?
Didn't he kill himself?
He did kill
Unalive
himself, but he killed himself exactly the point that we're talking about right now. He kept doing, your mom's diet of just going, I'm better, and stopping the medication and starting and stopping and starting and stopping. And then he couldn't, when he went back on the medication, it couldn't work anymore.
Because of his baseline.
His baseline had been so fucked by messing with
the going on and off.
yeah.
That probably happens to so many people. But that also gets scary because you're like, well, what if I go on and it doesn't work and then my baseline's fucked up anyway? Or like,
I mean, remember though, I think that he was abusing the medications as in, and it is abuse if you go on and go off and go on and go off.
Yeah.
And you have to be really careful with the brain chemistry, which is again why we're here.
Yeah.
Because we want to talk about, are there other ways to
Yeah.
diagnose? Are
Are
there
there
better ways to diagnose?
yeah, we do. I'm like, am I supposed to bring this up?
I don't know. I do want to tell you this, though. I don't know if you know this. I think this is good for everybody. Our psychiatrist, we have a family psychiatrist.
That's always,
That's lovely.
you never know.
We don't just have like a family PCP. We
Yeah.
have like a family psychiatrist. Anyway, our psychiatrist does a test where you let them swab your mouth, give your spit, and then she sends it away to a company where they look at your ability to process different medications on different receptors. And so before we try anything, we get a sheet that says, Prozac is likely to cause you a lot of side effects. Lexapro could work for you.
What?
Yes, it's
I
a
want this.
thing.
I thought you were gonna be like, they swab you and then they get you a 23andMe and they're like, oh, sorry, German, you can't have these.
It's essentially like that, though. It is like that. 23andMe actually has another program, not 23andMe, but I think Ancestry.com, that you can send them your spit and then they send you a thing and then you send it to another company and it does all medications.
Oh, I didn't know they did medications. I know they do like health stuff, but that's interesting. Like I thought they just told you things you were predisposed to.
I think you go to a company called Prometheus and then, anyway, regardless, there's a lot of stuff out there where you can send in your spit and it will tell
a lot
you.
that can come out of spit. They said spitters are quitters, but we're actually changing the world.
We're changing the world. So I think it's a really smart thing to do because then you know, like for like this, I knew that Advil never really worked for me and I didn't really know why. Like, why is Advil not helping with my pain? But apparently I don't have the receptors to process.
That processes it.
And so the Advil never really gets into my bloodstream in the way that it should. And so I have to take things like aspirin for pain.
But that's so important because I also feel like people can feel crazy if they hear like, everyone's like, it does wonders. And you're like, I feel nothing. I'm still hurting, you know?
Yeah.
That's, wow.
And some people would gain a lot of weight on one medication where another person wouldn't because they don't have like the receptors to really digest that medication.
Oh my God.
So anyway, this is a good thing to start. I would ask your psychiatrist to do this before you start anything. But then again, it only helps to a degree because then they still have to diagnose you correctly, because if they diagnose you without ADHD and they give you an SSRI, or if you have bipolar disorder and they give you an SSRI,
yeah, it could totally fuck you.
You're fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you have OCD, but they think you have bipolar disorder and you really needed a high dose of an SSRI, I mean, it's just a
There's
nightmare.
just so many things, and they do so many different things. It's all like brain chemistry.
Yeah. So hopefully your psychiatrist is sitting with you for at least a couple hours before they give you a medication.
Well, I have a new psychiatrist who refuses to give me medication, so.
Really?
She's not like, you can't have, that sounds like I'm a fucking drug addict. I started with a new psychiatrist just because I changed to shittier insurance, honestly, which, speaking of what we just did, I was like, I'm feeling good. I don't need to be paying all this money. I'll just go to a different doctor. Let's introduce myself, get a regular physical. And she's like, I'm going to send you to a cardiologist because there's something going on with my heart. So now I went to the psychiatrist to be like, hey, here's what I was on. I'm just trying to keep the train rolling. And that's why I said I'm like hoarding my little Adderalls like just a little mouse, because I have to get XYZ tests done. And she's waiting for like, she's doing the right thing, in my opinion. Is like, yeah, if I have a heart, you shouldn't just prescribe me something if you're like, well, these things could not interact well, so let's make sure your heart's okay. But I'm like, oh, what if my heart's not okay? Then what? And she's like, well, try Wellbutrin. And I'm like, okay.
Have you tried Wellbutrin?
I have not. So maybe that's what I need.
You really need a psychiatrist that's a chemist and well-versed and can really understand how they interact. You do your test, then they have to be a master at actually diagnosing you.
You need House and Walter White.
You do.
It's
to get it right. And why are they not looking, and I think this is really what we wanted to talk about today, is like, why are they not looking at the organ that they're treating?
Yeah, like why? I have never in my life had a psychiatrist do anything to see what my brain looks like. Because your brain can get fucked up.
Yeah. There's
so many things that can have overlapping symptoms where, like, it could be this, but if it's this other thing,
yes,
then how you're going to interact is completely different, or this, treating that's going to do nothing, or maybe even make this worse.
Yep. Have you been misdiagnosed in the past?
I have ADHD, chronic depression, major anxiety, but treating ADHD helped with all of those. So then I was like, do I even have those? Then the first person to put me on ADHD meds was like, well, we could try a lot of things, but I think, because I like to work hard. I am an achiever. I like getting things done. So they're like, I think you have anxiety because you can't get things done and you're getting depressed because of all the things you want to get done that aren't getting done.
Yeah.
So we treated ADHD, but then the more I read about like trauma and like complex PTSD,
yeah,
sometimes I'm like, am I treating trauma? Like, is the way my brain reacts because of life and not classic ADHD? And is there a negative side to, like, long term, I'm doing stimulants and it's something else? But that's just me.
I would go to guess that it's both for you. Only because
How
Mama.
can you tell?
Only because of your family history. Because Mom obviously had something biochemically off.
Oh, yeah.
And so I would just probably go to guess that chemistry-wise, you just needed a boost of
Something.
help
Yeah.
somewhere. But then you're right, the compound
Like
PTSD
circumstantial.
has also affected you
Yeah.
greatly. And so I think that's why we should do meds and therapy at the same time.
I think so, too. And I think a lot of people just do one or the other.
Yeah.
I think looking at brain should be more accessible. I think
Yes, it should.
what they're doing are we allowed to bring him into this? I
Yeah.
don't know.
So
I
we
mean,
took
already-
my OCD husband to the Amen clinic. Can I say that?
Yeah, of course.
So anyway, as my husband has OCD, and we were doing this lab rat, honeymoon phase, and
so romantic.
we decided that we were gonna spend the money and go to the Amen clinic after I also saw a TED Talk. You said that you saw his
Yeah,
TED
I saw a
Talk.
TED Talk with
Yeah.
Daniel Amen, this doctor, if anyone doesn't know about him.
Yeah.
They do brain scans and they
Yeah.
like see what's really going on in there.
Yeah. It's a pretty penny because unfortunately our insurance companies don't pay for this, which is
No, and that's what makes me mad,
Tragic.
is that like from a capitalist standpoint, I guess I get why he's like, well, I have this market cornered. It's a high demand. I can charge this much. I hate saying that,
Yeah.
but like that's the
Yeah.
acceptance.
But you're right. It would be nice.
It'd be nice if it was a little more accessible.
He should have like a Tom's Shoes vibe where it's like buy a brain scan, give a brain
Give a brain scan.
and then we might believe your TED Talk, sir.
Yeah, and it's like, I just can't believe that machine, which can't be doing much more than those airport scanners, and that is so dismissive to whoever made this machine. Or what, I don't even know what they do to you. All that money is paying for the machine, or is a small portion going to the actual thing, and you're just like, we'll just pocket that. It's like, what are we
doing?
doing? And I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe the electricity it costs to run that is, what do they even do?
They scan. Do you want to say it from the wings?
Yeah, from the wing. I mean, basically, it's like an MRI, and
Okay.
it's
Ugh.
like an MRI machine, but less robust, like less big, I guess. They kind of just scan your brain for like 20 minutes, and there's no difference in a really MRI. You just put
It's
you
just in
kinda
your brain.
lay you down, and they strap your head so it doesn't move.
They do it twice though. They do it when you're concentrating and
Concentrating.
and when you're resting, so that you can see the differences in your
Contrast,
brain.
so they can see where.
That's right. They do it over a course of 2 days.
How long
but
did the results take to get?
a week or two. And it shows you blood flow and then it in the brain when you're relaxing and when you're concentrating, and it also shows surface. So the surface of the brain. So they can see if there are like pits or holes in area of the brain. Like if you're concentrating and you have ADHD, for example, it's going to show internally and externally that not enough blood flow is going to your prefrontal cortex when you're trying to concentrate. In fact, when you try to concentrate and you have ADHD, less blood flow is happening here. And also it will show surface level, there's like a pit, like as if like, there was like a ditch,
Like just a
basically.
dip.
They did suggest if you have ADHD or if you don't have ADHD, there's a thing called Mendy. Have you seen it? Where you strap a little thing on your head and you can do kind of like at-home games on your phone where you're like trying to make this little ball make it to the end, and you have to like actually get blood flow to go to the front of your brain in order for the little ball to make it through this.
So the machine gives you blood flow? It helps the blood flow?
No, it's like reading it. So you're just like playing a video game
Oh.
and you run the video game based off of like how much you can focus.
Oh.
I've never done it.
Like
so
it all-
I'm explaining
You
it if
focus
I
in a
know.
certain way so that you direct blood flow to the area that you want it to be directed
Can actually teach
to.
your
So you
body
can teach
to
your brain. It's neurofeedback.
Oh, so this type of game is
Is
the way you would have to concentrate on this game. It forces that blood flow there. Okay, I'm picturing someone going, like, I will get the blood flow to the front, and I was like, okay, this is a sham. But like, if it's like that kind of game is,
the ball won't move unless you're doing the right, and we don't intuitively know how to do it
No.
until you play the game.
I did do
so it's like almost working out a muscle that like when you do a workout or something and you like feel a muscle that you're like, I don't even know what that is. That's new.
Yeah. There was a while there my glutes wouldn't turn on.
Oh, story of my life. It's all fucking quads.
Yeah, my glutes wouldn't turn on. So then I went to I worked with this woman for a while who finally got it where I could go, I can feel my glutes.
I feel my butt.
Now they turn on, I can activate them and now I can work them out. But for a while I could not turn them on.
Yes.
I think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And I did neurofeedback once. So essentially this is handheld at home neurofeedback.
Okay.
But I did neurofeedback once where I was in a place and I held a teddy bear. And then again, there was a video game on a big screen. And instead of having a direct blood flow, I had to stay calm. So I had to keep breathing.
No matter
and
what we show
calming
you on this video screen.
well, every time you get a little bit nervous, this fucking thing would fall out of the sky. So you had to be okay, I will keep this plane afloat with my breathing.
Or 250 people
I'm
on a Malaysian Airlines flight will go missing.
Imagine if it was a real fucking plane and you were hooked up and you
holding
had
a teddy bear, just sweating.
Or they'll die.
Everyone will die. You're no, this is helping my anxiety. This is good for me.
It's basically exposure therapy, VR exposure therapy. This might be the future, actually.
I mean, this is interesting. Did you learn, was there anything in your brain that you were oh, we were way off? Or was it not the thing you thought it was?
It's just that interoception.
That's a word.
That's a word. Where you can, sense your own body and change what's happening in your nervous system.
Wow.
Or here, I've never done the Mendy, but I think you can feel the blood flowing. Or it's the same thing as being able to
when you finally turn on your glute,
turn
and go,
on
oh, that's
your
what that
glute
feels like.
and go, oh, okay, now when I work out, I can activate my glutes and feel them working.
I remember having that actual moment with my glute and being oh, I can finally feel my butt.
Yeah, I think it's interoception, which I think neurofeedback is kind of probably really great, but it's also not something that's paid for by insurance, so you have to have a lot of money. You have to be Miley Cyrus to do it.
It's it's good to know that people who are already doing well can be doing better.
That's our world right now.
Yeah.
Were you asking if they learned anything about my brain just from the scans?
Yeah, was there stuff that you were oh.
Yeah.
One of the things that I liked that we learned is we learned that he had OCD. Which
you didn't know that before?
No, he did, which was cool because it was oh, some psychiatrists know what they're talking about.
Yeah, so it was validating to go, okay.
It showed the pathway was lit up, the OCD pathway.
Yeah.
So he's yes, that you see that here. This is what happens when you have OCD. So you're okay, that wasn't a misdiagnosis.
It gave me a little bit of faith in psychiatry again, where I was oh, okay, you can look at a bubble of symptoms and go,
it's probably
this is most likely OCD, and yeah, it gave me some faith in our diagnostic system. And so I was oh, okay, they're showing it lighting up and he got it from the same correlating symptoms. And so if you're good at it, I think you can do it actually without the scan. However, then
you have to be really good.
Then you have to be really, really good. But then also they went he had some extra symptoms, basically we'll call them extra symptoms, and they went in the bipolar direction. But it was actually, this is where the brain scan helps, it was actually the ADHD direction. And so he had been misdiagnosed in a different area for a while because of the interesting sort of cross
they can kind of overlap
symptoms and it can mimic something else. And so then in that sense, it was really great to go oh, he doesn't have OCD and bipolar disorder, he has OCD and ADHD.
Yeah.
And so that was really helpful, and that's why we sort of went on this Vyvanse journey, and we'll probably do more of a journey, but we're taking a second. And then he has a traumatic brain injury.
Did you have an incident, or you?
I've had concussions.
He played hockey.
Lots of concussions.
Love hockey.
I didn't know that I had a TBI, though. I didn't know.
Yeah, because it's
that could be causing my aggressiveness.
And this is one of the reasons why I think the brain scan. Have you seen him at the end of the day after Vyvanse?
No, I'm catching him in the good hour.
I'm gonna call you next time.
The golden hour.
He's really good in the morning. Back on that point, we found out that he has a traumatic brain injury from all of the past hockey, and so now we're actually trying to address that. And so I do believe that you should be doing the, swabby swab, and then you should be talking to someone about your symptoms for at least 2 hours or more, or they should have a relationship with your therapist.
I have a question about traumatic brain injury.
Yeah.
Did they give you tips to, can you improve that? Or is it just well, you're injured. And so is it like having a permanent limp in your brain where it's you just got to learn to function with that there? Or is it take fish oil?
Right now we're trying hyperbaric oxygen.
What the fuck is that?
I just go in a chamber and I
This sounds totally fine.
go in a chamber and they raise the PSI. I'm
Pumped
getting
into
pumped
your-
more oxygen.
Okay.
And your body can only get so saturated with oxygen, but when they're pumping more oxygen, it kicks off the amount of oxygen in your red blood cells and then reoxygenates those red blood cells. So you get like double the amount of red blood cells going
Okay,
to
so
your
stuff
brain.
starts flowing
So,
more.
so it's flowing more, oxygenating that area.
Wow.
And then if you do it enough times, they show that, like, for football players and stuff like that, it repairs
Oh, okay.
for good. For good.
Oh, it's like permanent improvement.
permanent improvement.
So
at a
again,
certain
you
level.
have to have money.
Yeah.
You have to have money because it's expensive.
Thank God they're paying these men in the NFL.
I know. They can afford it. Thank
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
I mean, they really do need it, but that's wow. Yeah, it's
well, because
everything's so expensive.
they accidentally kill people and stuff.
Yeah,
you
they.
know?
I mean, they go crazy, but it's like interesting to know. Somewhere out there, someone's like, "Thank God, I thought they were going to take football from us, but now we got an answer." You know, like
someone was gonna take football
I
from
thought
us.
they were going to cancel it.
Yeah,
for
you know
good.
what? You're right. They probably finally came up with hyperbaric oxygen because they were so terrified that their football was going to be taken from them.
I have $1 billion idea for the right company. Turning locker rooms into hyperbaric chambers. NFL locker rooms, full extra pumps of oxygen, unstoppable.
Like how you can do infrared yoga now, where the whole room is infrared.
Yeah.
The whole locker room is oxygenated.
Yeah, the amount of money you could make selling that to,
Don't they pump extra oxygen into casinos?
casinos.
Yeah.
And that's honestly
We should
a
just
waste. That's
we-
good. They're keeping chain-smoking grandmas going strong. So,
and
a poor person's hyperbaric chamber is
only
the Valley in Las Vegas.
and only football players and Miley Cyrus can afford all of the mental health treatments that we've suggested today.
I mean, if someone were to somehow, make these affordable, and imagine the potential of our country if everyone could get this kind of care. The achievements.
We could have. Yeah, if we didn't spend all of
Kamala?
it on defense. Kamala.
Yeah. What if we defended our brains instead of our borders? Or both.
I love how she's like really interested
just
in
into
this
the camera.
camera.
I'm going straight
She
in.
knows that this camera is like close up on her, and she is
I'm
committed.
so afraid of what I'm
to
going to
it.
see if I...
There's a camera here too, but it's so cute because you're like, I don't care about you. This is the one, America. The point of this is not to depress you. Just educate yourself, and it's not like your psychiatrist can't diagnose you. Just be careful.
Yeah, but awareness.
Awareness.
I think everyone could afford to have a cautious level of skepticism when coming with any medical diagnosis. I don't think you need to take a label someone throws at you and run with it immediately. Like, question and look into things and be aware of how the diagnostic process works. And don't attach your identity to it.
And you can change your diet and do things like that to really help support your mental health.
It does make a difference. Unfortunately, I wish I changed my diet. I started exercising, and it helps. And nothing made me more devastated than finding out cutting out certain foods that I love makes a great difference in my mental health. Because I love food. When I eat cheeseburgers, it actually does have a great detriment to my mood and ability to get things done, and that is so terrible.
We had
thank you.
cheeseburgers recently, and we tried to hike after.
I can't now. I don't know if it's an age thing or what, but it's like that's a nap food. I understand siestas.
That's a nap food, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't even eat late anymore. I've gotten so old that I have to eat like at a geriatric time to give myself enough time to digest before I go to bed.
Before bed.
Or my sleep situation is horrifying. I'm like, hi,
yeah.
do you want to say hi?
Or if I eat sugary foods, I'll have bad dreams. It's
Yes.
weird.
Yeah, anyway, so that does help, but also don't replace medication if you need it with only diet. I think it really is a holistic approach.
Yeah, I also think it's worth saying that needing medication is nothing to be ashamed of. We live in a world where, especially if you can afford and have access to it, nothing makes me more angry than people who have the means to treat themselves and they just go, I'm just bipolar, that's the way it is. And you're like, are you taking anything? Are you doing anything?
How you doing?
No. This is who I am. And you're like, okay. And I say that to go like, for years with my ADHD. I was like inadvertently terrorizing people I lived with just my small, messy habits of leaving stuff behind and they've been called little explosions. But like,
Not snail trails or explosions.
yeah, it's just little piles of my things I'm working on. And I was just like, that's just how I am. And then you start taking something, you're like, oh, it doesn't have to be. And actually, when you're less stressed, you energetically also pick up on that if the other person's stressed, and it's this fucking snowball.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
nothing wrong with taking something to help.
There's nothing wrong with that. There shouldn't be a stigma about that. And what I do like about the world today is that information is becoming democratized. And so now that more people know that these things exist, maybe we can push for people to get brain scans and hyperbaric oxygen. We do want to hear a little bit about you. Do you have a microphone anymore?
Well, the dog did eat it, but I got it back.
Okay.
So we're going to be okay.
So you're touring a shit ton.
I am. If you like stand-up comedy, jmscomedy.com. Follow me at jmscom if you like to laugh. Sometimes I even make jokes about mental health, not all the time.
Actually, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on here, because you do care about it a lot.
Yeah,
I think it's important.
It's important to me. I think it's important to talk about. I think these conversations are so important. I love that you're doing this.
When did you switch over to be full-time comedian?
Full-time, probably
Yeah.
around 2016, 2017. And then, as we know, the world took a turn in 2020. And so it was a little bit of a baby deering my legs back into it, where I did random jobs. I was like doing punch up and career coaching for a little while to get like back. But it's been, I don't know, the past year, things have been full speed ahead. Everything's, well, it's a journey. But
Are you loving it?
I love it.
How do you maintain a relationship and do it?
I am very lucky that I found someone who understands me, and he happens to work on the business side of entertainment. So he's like adjacent enough that he understands the lifestyle, but he's not in it, which can get chaotic.
Yeah.
And, just communicating clearly and learning to be the best version of myself to bring to the table, I think has helped. No relationship is easy. If someone says that everything's easy, they're lying.
Weren't you like up for a Grammy too?
I had my comedy album was shortlisted for Best Comedy Album, so I was like nominated to be nominated. But also I had a country song I released in 2021. I just, at the time, was dating a musician, and we were locked down and basically bullied him into helping me make a country song. And that got on the shortlist for 5 Grammys.
Wow.
So I also make country music if you like that. And a lot of people don't, but a lot of people do.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's so nice to see you. It's been a really long time.
So great to see you. I'm glad
glad
you're
we
doing
did
so well.
this.
I'm glad we're doing this.
I'm doing well.
You seem like you're doing well. I projected that onto you.
No, you know what? Like I said, we're doing great. And then also it's been a really hard year because of mental health. So it's another reason why I'm so glad we're doing this podcast.
Yeah, it's a journey.
It's a fucking journey. Okay. Anyway, bye everyone. Thank you for coming.